It's a time of deep and profound energetic change, and I know many of us are feeling it. We might be feeling it as our work is changing, our identities are changing, our friendships and communities are changing, and the questions we're asking are changing. That can feel really messy and even a little bit disallowed or taboo, because so many of us grew up with the message that we should always know what the next step is. We should never have any loss in our lives, that we should always keep it together, that we should be practical and we should know, and we should be able to control everything that comes next. And yet, what we end up experiencing in a lifetime is that loss and falling away is a deeply integral part to the whole thing. And also, somehow, we can still feel as though we're doing it wrong when these times arrive. And I know as we come to the end of this year, it has been a heavy year. We have been doing some of the deepest energetic reworking I've ever experienced in my lifetime on the collective. We have been facing into shadows. We have been picking up on threads that have been lurking just below our conscious realm that we are now reworking and looking at. That is huge work. And I am so proud of all of us who have been doing that and sitting with it and reflecting and connecting and really communing and doing that healing work, because it is so profound. And also, as we sit here at the end of this year, we might be feeling a bit disoriented, lost, discombobulated, unsure of exactly what next move is the right move, unsure of how to embody the next version of the world. And I want to throw an idea out there and add a little bit of a symbolic, archetypal, energetic lens into this conversation, because I think it's really helpful. And that is something that I am nicknaming the great in between. And I've talked about the great in between before. This is the creative mystery void, non-physical, energetic that is always trying to communicate with us. And it is showing up in a really profound way in the lens of astrology as Saturn and Neptune finish up their time in Pisces. And this is their final visitation before they move into Aries and move on ahead through the rest of the signs. And they won't be back with Pisces for a very, very long time. And as the final sign of all 12 signs, this is not just a completion of residency in Pisces. This is a completion of all 12 signs, a complete revolution through all of those conversations. And so we are, as a collective and individually, sitting in a time of great reweaving. And that comes with a series of experiences, from disorientation, fatigue, confusion, to there being really strong energetic reworkings that we are feeling, and moments of aha and connection and things coming together. And I want to normalize some of the experiences that come with this energy that we'll be working with into February. And then we're going to start working more and more with that Aries energetic and starting to embody and feeling those energies. But at this point, when I'm sitting here now, over these next few months, we are going to be incorporating and working with this great in between. So let's explore it. Let's get grounded in it. And let's sit together with this great mystery. Neptune leaves Pisces on January 26th, and Saturn leaves Pisces on February 13th. So they will be almost in tandem as they leave the final sign of the zodiac. And this symbolically is all about a gigantic energetic process going through all 12 signs coming to completion. And this final degree of Pisces is really famous for being a time where we enter into a timeless void, the great in between, the great womb of creation. And that can feel very different than the demands of the world that we're living in. And so I want to explore two things, two central themes that run through this kind of womb-like void time in between worlds, because that is going to be making space, clearing old ties, clearing space, both practically and energetically, and practicing building capacity for what is next. Because if we don't have the capacity for it, it can't come in. And this is the kind of work behind the scenes here that often feels like it's not enough, because it will often not look like much externally. And this is not an either or situation. We're still going to be doing our things on the external world. There are still questions to be asked, movements to be made, things to coalesce. All of that's still going to be happening. But we might have this interior experience of not doing enough, or like, am I allowed to spend time on this energetic process? It can also manifest as feeling like pieces of our lives are falling away, and like we're not having the success and the clarity and the full circle moments that we want to be having. And I think it's really helpful to know that if you are feeling a bit lost or in between identities, or you feel like you're failing or things are falling apart or like you're doing worse than ever, taking a breath. Of course, every one of us is unique, and there are many reasons we might be having that experience. But I want to just put out there that you might be experiencing partially part of this big cycle of energetic resonance that is going on. And that does often feel like a great falling away. And it can feel very vulnerable. And it can feel very scary. I've had a lot of times over the last couple of weeks where I have felt the vulnerability of experiencing a great falling away. And truth be told, this whole year we have been really working with this in-between energy in quite a profound way. But we are coming to this very powerful moment of coalescence in these final weeks with Saturn and Neptune so close together, where we are really sitting between the worlds. So like I said, the two things to focus on here, the two umbrella ideas that I think are really helpful for energetically working with this time rather than against it, rather than getting like tight and tense and like holding ourselves as tight as possible to get through it. These are ideas that can help us move with it, because this is very watery energy. So the first one, clearing space. And this is working both on the physical and the energetic. Saturn and Neptune really reflect those two sides of the experience as they work together here. So clearing space, one way to do that is you can simplify your surroundings, clear out the old junk drawer, clear out the closet, tidy something up, a little corner. That's very powerful work right now. That's magical work. This is also a really powerful time. And many of us are already doing this work and will continue to do it over these coming weeks, is clearing old ties, old bargains we've made, old pledges of fealty that we've made to our family line or to an expectation or to a past version of ourselves that are now ready to be cleared. Now, of course, we're not going to clean up everything. The goal isn't to have like this perfect, sparkling, tidy object that we can say, okay, I'm ready for the new world, right? Because this is a very long, big project. But the things that are ready to release, this is a fantastic time to just be playing with that and exploring that and making space. And if you're noticing quiet in an aspect of your life, in your friendships, in work, in any of the elements that might be coming up where you're experiencing quiet, that might be connected to this great in-between energy where you feel a little bit lost. You feel a little bit of that void energy. And that can be a sign that we're carving out some spaciousness. So practicing feeling safe in those quiet moments that might initially feel a little unsettling or disallowed can be a really interesting place to experiment with what cycles are closing for you, and to really, really witness that and notice what's wanting to fall away and what feels almost like relief when you really let yourself say it's safe for this to change form. The other side of this is creating capacity. And it's so important that we have the bandwidth and capacity to welcome in the next ingredients, because if we are not ready for that, it will just be too much. That can crash our systems out and feel very overwhelming. Has anybody ever done that where, you're like, yeah, I'm ready for the next thing. So you sign up for a whole bunch of stuff and then you're out there doing it and you just feel horrible. And within 3 weeks, you're like, okay, I'm canceling all of those classes. I'm just going to stay home for the rest of the year. It's that kind of thing, right? We want to feel that we are equipped and energetically open in the right places for these new ingredients. And this is a step that we're often told to skip in culture. Honestly, like full on skip it. Like we are never taught this in school. We are never taught this in work or in lifestyle. It's just kind of like you just get in there and get over with it and deal with it. And of course, yes, like sometimes we need to just go and do the thing, and the learning is in going and doing the thing. Absolutely. That's very true. But creating capacity is a very intentional practice of being comfortable with a little bit of quiet, being comfortable with the mystery, feeling safe, grounded in our bodies, taking the time to imagine those good ingredients that you would like to show up, and actually getting comfortable enough imagining them arriving that it doesn't feel like it's too much for your system. And we have to do that very gently and slowly. We don't always feel fully open to every single beautiful thing. We don't always feel fully open. It'd be so much to suddenly have all the good things happening at once. Our capacity can close us down. So learning to sit with the visions, the dreams, and the hopes, and learning to have capacity for those warm feelings and letting it expand a little bit is really important. And what's interesting about that capacity creating thing is that we're doing it in tandem with all of that space creation. And the space creation can feel a lot different than the warm capacity building, because it can often come with grief. It can often come with really big emotions. It can feel like things are crumbling sometimes. There can be shame that comes up, stress, unknown, overwhelm that's coming up with the clearing. That can also be a really positive experience, by the way. It can be both, all at the same time. And then the creating capacity is so much about getting into resonance with that warmth. And I think that is a really interesting conversation that's going on as we're concluding this giant cycle. It's also good to keep in mind that individually we're each experiencing that falling away and that building of capacity. And this is happening on a cultural level. The psyche of the world and the past few centuries is moving through this process as well. So if you're a sensitive person, not only are you experiencing your own evolution and getting this call to step into some new roles and some new identities, and that can feel a little bit scary and unknown, and going through all of the emotions that come with that. Am I allowed to do this? Am I allowed to embody something? Am I allowed to dream in this way? Am I allowed to own my power and resonance while I'm experiencing all this falling away, while I'm experiencing the world going through this? You're doing all of that work, and you're experiencing a very deep and intense collective energetic process of working with its shadow, of looking at old karmic debts. And when I say that, we're talking about the balance of the world. That's heavy. That's heavy. That's intense. This kind of reweaving, it's mastery level stuff. So every single person who's here in the world right now is going through like one of the deeper levels of this energetic work that you can do while being embodied in this world. Let's just acknowledge that for a second at the end of this cycle. So it's also a reminder, like we're doing the clearing, the capacity building, and we're doing it in tandem with the collective experience, which is quite messy. And it does involve doing a lot of the shadow work and looking at things. So we're doing all of that, but there's something trying to come through. That's the final note here at the end of our chat. All of this is deeply connected with the future that's already kind of here trying to fully land. And so this time is very essential for doing this void work where it looks like we're doing nothing, like it's negative space, like we're creating a vacuum. We're creating a very quiet, creative vacuum. And that feels like, how is that building a new world? Well, it's creating the space for it to come in. And that's the most powerful place we can do some of our creative work. Once again, it's not an either or situation. We can be creating a void and still connect with the world. There are many things that happen simultaneously, and that is definitely the nature of this universe. We're definitely not doing just one thing at a time. So just keeping that in mind. And I just wanted to create a little bit of space here because I think this is a really intense bridge between worlds here. We're really in this like very deeply powerful between worlds, lost, falling away, it feels kind of messy time that is quite potent, and it can be very easy to judge ourselves or be hard on ourselves in this time. But it can also, I just want to also say, it's intense. Many of us are also going to be crystal clear. Clearer than we've ever been about what actually matters, about where we actually want to spend our energy, about what we do not care about. Some of these things that are falling away, it's like, okay, fine, sure. Sure. And we can be experiencing both the fear, the shame, the shadow, the scary, and illumination. And that's going to continue on, to be honest. We'll see the other side of this coin as we start to work with Neptune and Saturn and Aries more properly, because Pisces and Aries are like the two sides of the same coin. They really are. And they're very deeply connected to two sides of the veil. And so we still do this work in Aries, just from a slightly different vantage point. So we'll have to check in again in a few months. But with that being said, let me know how you're feeling about the great in between. And what's coming up for you, what's falling away, what's feeling scary, what's feeling allowed, what's feeling disallowed. I want to hear about all of it in the comments. So let me know. What is your key word in closing out this cycle? What is like the crucial concept, identity, feeling, process that is just right there in your face that you are connecting with and contending with and evolving through? I want to hear about it. Truly, it's so powerful for us to share in the comments because it helps us see each other. And that allows for the energetic work to be carried less alone. If you want more support for leaning into this kind of wild alchemizing time, I am going to be walking us through something called the Wild in Between in my Wild Dreaming community on Patreon. And it's going to start on December 19th and run through January 30th. And it's designed not only to transfer us into the new year, help us go across that threshold, but it's also designed for specifically the Saturn Neptune time, and learning how to lean back into that, into the creative void, as actually one of the most powerful forward moving things we can do. So leaning back to move forward. And we're going to be working with archetypes, and I'm going to be helping us work through how to get into our back body more so that we feel that resonance. We're going to be working with archetypes like Baba Yaga. We're going to be working with the central cards of the tarot, working through strength to temperance. We're going to be working with that very interesting liminal zone and how we can be empowered in there. So if you want support, that starts on December 19th. In the upper tier, we're going to be doing 3 calls together where we're going to work on this stuff together in ritual. So if you want support, it's super affordable, like crazy affordable. And I want to give you that support at this time. This is something I can do. This is one of my gifts, is to be able to offer that kind of soft, warm support. So check out that community. I will leave the link in the description. Easy to find, easy to sign up. You can leave when you want. And I will be back here again very soon for our next chat. I'm sending you so much love, my fellow sparkly spirits. Keep moving with your intuitive knowing, even when it feels disallowed. I'll see you soon.